Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty, and for today's episode I have for you a scrapbook layout process using my Counterfeit Kit. If you don't know about Counterfeit Kit Challenge group, go ahead and check out their blog, and I will leave links for everything for you to make it easy. If you saw my video earlier this week, you'll know that my mojo is kind of lacking, and in Wednesday's video I shared with you a tip on what I do when my mojo is lacking. And today I have another tip for you, and that is to use a challenge of some sort. And Counterfeit Kit offers those aplenty. Every month they offer a couple of different challenges. So the first challenge for the month of April is called Alfresco. And they talk about in here different things that alfresco might mean. It might mean going out to eat at a favorite spot, or hanging out in the park, or other fun family events. It might mean layering pattern paper for creating a cute scene, and that scene might include some puffy clouds. So that gives me some ideas to take to my kit and get myself working when my mojo and my creativity just kind of aren't there on their own. So let's get started. One of the words that popped up in that challenge was whimsy, and I liked that idea, and I really wanted to use this kind of scalloped circle paper, but I couldn't figure out how to make it fit. And I found these photos of my kids at a beach trip, and I decided that I was going to go there because I had sunglass print in this kit. And if you haven't seen my kit build, I will leave links for you so you can check that out. So I decided to use this sunglass print, and that has its own whimsy to it. And I decided to pair it with this scallopy kind of print that reminds me of the mermaids in the ocean. So the sun and the waves are kind of fitting in with my theme here. And you can see that I'm piecing these papers together to create a double page spread. And this is something that I like to do when I don't have two sheets of the paper. I will cut two separate sheets apart and use one for the top and one for the bottom, and glue them all together using a scrap piece. Now I am going to create some more whimsy on this page with my title, and my title is using these wood grain alphas from my kit that kind of remind me of driftwood, so it fits with the beach theme. And I am titling this page Beach Bums in Training, and that's just kind of, my journaling is going to talk about all the things that they love doing on the beach and how they could probably do that all day, every day. Let me show you one trick that I do when I have these standalone letters, and I will get them all spaced out how I like them to be, and then I will tack them all down with some washi tape, and that will help hold them in place. And that will also help me move them around on my page to try and decide where I want them. Like here I tried stacking them, but then I decided I really did want a whole long row because I'm going to add some baker's twine to this, and it's going to kind of underline my title, so I wanted them in one long row. Now I am going to add kind of a puffy cloud feel to that with my modeling paste, and I will admit I have not played with this modeling paste in a very long time, so I had kind of forgotten how it behaves. And here I was just laying it on thick to get that puffy feeling to it, and because it is a very wet medium, it did end up warping my paper some. But that's okay because it stayed flexible. I was able to just kind of bend my paper back into place. Now I wanted to kind of cover up that seam where these papers met, and I'm using a polka dot stencil there, and instead of going through the stencil, I'm using the stencil on top of the paste to kind of add some texture, and it kind of reminds me of the froth of the waves. So that's what I was going for. And now here I am just playing. I had seen this technique on a scrapbook.com product video where the presenter took a gel type medium and used a spatula to create these little hearts that would then she put them straight on a card project, but I wanted them to dry separately so that I could use them as embellishments and move them around. And part of what I wanted to do was put them on top of photos. And if you do wet medium on top of photos, that can cause your photos to bleed. So I knew I didn't want to do it straight on my photos. And now I'm doing the same thing with my glitter Nuvo drops, and this glitter product is fun, but I am finding that the tip is clogging. I don't have a lot of experience with the glitter Nuvo. I did have a lot of the stickles in the past, and those did clog on me. And here you go. I am bending that paper back into shape. Now that it's all dry, I did have to let it sit for at least 24 hours because it was very wet. And here's one of those things about that medium that I didn't really anticipate, is that it dried more translucent than it did white. And so that was a bit of a surprise. But now my embellishments look more white, and they did easily pop off that plastic. So I was very pleased with how those came out. I do have a little bit of a problem with them later, but I will also give you a solution that was easy to fix. And here I've turned my attention back to my title because this is more glue that needs to dry. So because it's easy to pick those up with a washi tape, I can add some glue to them and then just put heavy blocks on top of them and let them dry. And I let that dry for a couple of hours. And that glue actually worked well enough on top of the lumpy, bumpy modeling paste that it held my letters in place just fine. I was a little worried about that. And you will see that I do have some trouble with my photos wanting to stick to that lumpy, bumpy medium. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, now I did say I wanted to add some some baker's twine to my title as an underlining to this title, and also because it reminds me of stringy seaweed on the beach. So those are all kind of the thoughts that I put into that. And I only had enough to do 2 strands on each page. I wanted to do more to really build up the texture and layers, but I ran out. So I did what I could. And I like to punch, you saw me earlier using that ruler and my little hole punch. I like to punch little notches on the edge when I'm using string across the whole page, because it allows me to pull it just a little bit tighter than I would feel comfortable otherwise. And I find that it doesn't kind of buckle my page as much as doing it separately, and it helps it stay in place and stay straight for me. Now here I am working with these photos. I had cropped this photo down to 2 4x6s with a little bit of overlap, and that lets me come up with a panorama print without, pardon my kitty, he's been really my crafty buddy lately, so he's going to visit us today. So anyway, back to that photo. I created that panorama out of 2 4x6 that I overlapped in the middle and just adhered them together. And actually I trimmed off the edges because I wanted more of my pattern paper to frame it out, because I'm not doing a lot of frames with these photos, so I wanted to give it a little more edge with the background. And now I'm playing with those hearts, and you can see here me moving them around onto my photos, so that's why I wanted to let them dry ahead of time. And now because I did have those purple glitter hearts, I wanted to add more purple to my layout, and if you watched my kit build, you know that this kit build was based on the colors green and purple. And this glitter reminds me of the sparkle on the water and how the sky changes colors at sunset. So even though the purple seems a little out of place, it has a purpose. It has a reason for being there. And then also that scallop print at the bottom reminds me of mermaids. I think I said that already. And so adding this glitter to little spotches down at the bottom kind of reminds me of the sparkle and shine of the mermaid tail. And so those are the reasons, my thinking process behind why I'm choosing what I choose. All right, I turn myself to my photos, and of course I run out of adhesive right in the middle, so pardon that. I switch over to a different adhesive, and that adhesive was not making me happy at all. It did not stick to this texture background. I do end up adding some liquid glue underneath there. I think if I had known that this was going to happen, I would have probably used some foam adhesive under there to give the photo a little bit of texture off of that lumpy, bumpy background, because it is kind of causing my photo to be a little bumpy, and that's not my favorite. But moving forward, I am arranging these hearts, and now I didn't use quite enough product with the Nouveau glitter gel, and my hearts started breaking apart, but they broke off in pieces such that I could puzzle them back together. So here I put on the left part of the heart, and I just add a tad of glue, don't need a lot, to re-adhere that heart piece back together. And because it is going on to a flat object and not being popped up or anything, it's pretty easy to just add a little bit of glue. And I did kind of spread it as thin as I could so that it wouldn't, the moisture wouldn't bother the photo too much. And this glitter glue, glue is called Art Glitter Glue, and I find it dries really fast. It seems to have a much lower moisture content to it, and I like it for these kinds of things. So that gets my embellishments going on my photo, and I decide to just keep my embellishing on top of my photos this time instead of building embellishment clusters around. I'm just going to let my background paper do that job. Now you'll notice that I did cover up most of that medium that I put in the background, and again, I just wasn't thinking, I was just trying to go and do, and I didn't get it far enough down on the page where it was showing more. And again, oh well. It's just one more experience that I can add to my bag of tricks for next time and to think things through differently. And then I wanted to add more purple to this layout, and as I was tearing that piece, it tore off at an angle at the end. And I was like, at first I was like, oh, that's not what I wanted. But then I just decided to use it as an opportunity, and I made the other side match and moved on. So today is a lot about just making do, going with the flow, and moving on. And when I started this video, I was talking about, my mojo not being there and just trying things. And part of that is just learning to accept mistakes when they happen. I have not always been good at that. I tend to be a little frustrated when imperfections happen. And I tell you, I've gotten a lot better just by practicing, practicing making mistakes and practicing accepting those mistakes. So here I am finishing up adding some pops of purple to this layout around the photos just to give them a little more depth and dimension. And I added a piece to the bottom of that sunset photo because that's going to kind of tie the eye into the journaling that I will add there. And just a little flag of paper around this other photo. Heavier paper around my focal photos, lighter bits of paper around a different photo. So there, I've got my journaling in. I've got little pops of purple going on with this page, which adds some detail. I've got that mixed media texture going on. And so I'm going to call this page good for today. Now, in terms of did it get my mojo going again? And that has a two-part answer, part yes and part no. These products that I played with didn't exactly work out how I wanted them to. However, I did have a lot of success with those hearts, and that is something I will definitely want to go back to and try again. So while it didn't restore my mojo, it did get some creative thinking going for next time, and that's kind of the process. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any comments about what you do when your mojo is low, please leave them for me so we can all read them and get some tips and tricks from each other. I will see you next time.